Exciting video today, guys. I'm talking about my top 11 stocks in the market to have on your watch list or buy as the market is selling off. We're going to cover my top three turnaround stories or four turnaround stories and the seven next generation stocks. So these are companies that I believe will be the next $100 billion plus businesses that you need to start considering at these price levels to nibble on your account for the long term. So let's hop into things. I just made a video a few days ago covering the SPY, the market, the macro, what's happening. Go watch that video because that's going to help give you context to why I'm talking about these 11 stocks in this video. So go watch that one, but let's dive into things. The first stock on the market, drum roll please, Intel. And there's one big reason why Intel's on this list. The reason Intel is on this list is because the US wants to bring manufacturing back to the US. And one of those big things that they want to bring back is manufacturing. And a big one of those major manufacturing areas are chips. And Intel is one of the few businesses in the world at a large scale, or has the opportunity at a large scale, to produce chips in the US. They already have somewhat of an infrastructure built. They have a new CEO. They partnered with TSMC, who's also building manufactured plants in the US. And so I think this has the opportunity that the administration and the U.S. government is going to put both their hands behind Intel and push them as far as they can, because this is really the only company that U.S. can rely on to get chips to the U.S. quickly. And so Intel's been a shit show for a while. They're definitely losing market share. But with a new CEO, with a TSMC partnership, Intel is going to become a much more important stock. I would say over the next 5 to 10 years. Could the stock go lower? Sure, right? Like anything can go lower. This thing can go down to $12. Yeah, maybe it's going to bottom out where it did in the past. But this is something that you want to start considering to start nibbling on. The market's already sold off a bit. This stock has stayed in its range. They've had, I believe, some positive news come out more recently. One of those many things being the partnership with TSMC, a new CEO, which I think is a better fit for where the company needs to head. And so Intel needs to be on your watch list and a potential long-term buy for your portfolio. We're in a trading range. I honestly don't care if this stays in a trading range for another 8 months. If it starts to build up more of that strength, then I'll continue to buy some more of this stock. But you must have this on your watch list at the minimum. They probably are still going to have some really ugly quarters the next few, maybe for the rest of the year. But that's why this is a long-term buy, guys. Say it again. This is a long-term buy that's accumulating, which sure, accumulate some more. But there's a chance that's worth taking that this becomes the poster child of manufacturing in the U.S. because every other company that's going to try to move to the U.S., TSMC, maybe AMD does more here. Intel's probably not, NVIDIA, that's going to be probably really hard for them to come to the U.S. There are most likely going to be tariffs put on Taiwan for semiconductors. The current bills do not include semiconductors, but Trump said more are most likely coming. And so that means that we need a poster child for the U.S., and that might just be Intel. Just like Ford and GM will be the poster childs for vehicles, and the administration is going to try to push those guys to as much success as possible, Intel could be the poster child of pushing too much success as possible. We know TSMC is already in good works with the administration with their big investment, and so that partnership with Intel could be a huge win for this company in the long term. They suck right now, but in the long term, it could pay off. Talking about semiconductors, you know I love AMD, guys. I've been talking about it for a while. I sold some on this rip back up to try to make some profits back. I bought some more on this dip. Still holding my long-term position. In all honesty, this stock could go lower. If the administration says we are now implementing tariffs on semiconductors, if they're making more regulations or bans on things being used in China. Like, this is definitely going to impact the stock more, and it could go lower. But the main reason why I believe in AMD in the long term is because of where they're starting to build out their expertise in inference, specifically making really small CPUs or GPUs that can go in small robotics, like drones, like satellites, like phones. If we think about the next wave of AI, I don't personally believe it's in data center. I think data centers are going to be really competitive. I think there's a lot of winners there because there's going to be so much demand and we're going to need so much energy for it. And that's a whole different conversation. But a company that can truly own AI in small devices is going to be a huge winner. Obviously, there's some competition with NVIDIA, but NVIDIA honestly is taking a slightly different route with their business that they can be the true winner. I think AMD going down the route, we know they already have partnerships with SpaceX for their satellites. We know they're partnering. They have a lot of partnerships with Sony. You know, all these other companies that are wanting to put AI into their products more. It's just going to be AMD could build out an amazing little segment for themselves in the market. So again, let's look at the big picture. Month chart, we have the 100-day at 75. Honestly, guys, this stock could sell off another 10 points down to 75. We've already broken a lot of important support. You know, like, let's just put another line here. Yeah, maybe in the middle of this range, there's some support about where we are. But this stock could totally go to 75. And in the worst case, this stock could go to $58. I would say around 58, honestly, is my floor of where this stock could go. I am building a very large, this is not financial advice, but I'm building a very large long-term position. I am probably only a fourth to a third in the size of the position I want in AMD. So I have a lot of room to play down here if I need to. If they break a lot lower, then I will be buying into this stock way more aggressively. I'm already down like 10% for full transparency. But if this stock continues to sell off significantly, then I'm going to increase my position significantly, because in the long term, I believe in the CEO. I believe in where they're trying to put their place in the AI super cycle, which I still has a lot of legs. I think AMD is still trying to figure out how to make these things happen quicker for other competitors not to come into their space, but they've chose their road just like they did back in the day when the stock was $5 and it went tearing higher. I think they now are in this next leg of the business where they're figuring out where they want the business to go. And in the long term, again, AMD is going to be a winner. Still bullish, right? Like when we go zoom out real far, you know, $38 is the 200-day. If it goes that low, that would be absolutely insane. That's like obviously the worst case scenario. But again, 59 is probably about the low, in my opinion, that this stock could go. Right there, it's just too cheap. This already trades at 19 PE future or forward PE. The peg is getting just so low. And so this stock is a long-term winner, but it could go a little bit lower. But this is some areas to start considering nibbling on. Next up, PayPal. Okay, PayPal, I made a very long, just like AMD, go watch my long form video on AMD. I share a lot there. I made a long form video on PayPal and why I think it's a winner. First thing I want to say about PayPal is the company, even if they cut their buybacks a little bit, they're buying a third of the company back in their buybacks, guys. So that just shrinks the share count on this stock so much that it just has to go up when this bear cycle is over or this recession is over, just because the float is going to be too low. If you add on top of that what they're doing with Fastlane, with trying to their goal of owning the quick checkout experience on mobile, having international exposure with Europe potentially doing better, with those markets getting a little bit relief after being in really long-term recessions, having an exposure there where demand might be going up. This company is slightly more insulated from tariffs. Obviously, this is demand on price. So if prices go up, they make more, right? So this is stock slightly more isolated from tariffs. Just like this is probably the only stock so far that's isolated from tariffs. Both Intel is a little bit less than AMD, but AMD definitely has an opportunity to be really impacted by tariffs, depending on what the administration does. But this one's a little bit more isolated. And it's just like these guys have reliable 5 to 8% growth year over year. Their income is growing substantially. They're finally figuring out how to align all the different aspects of their business. They have this next wave of AI that they talk about in their business that will start happening. I would say probably in 12 months you'll start seeing it happen a little bit, and then that will start to accelerate for the next 3 years. So this is just a no-brainer down here. Again, this is a stock I'm down a bit. I think I'm in the mid 60s. Now we're $10 down from I think my buy price. We're at the bottom of the range, so I don't want to see this go much lower. If it does go much lower, it could go to the 50s at the bottom of where these candles, we'll just call it like 51-ish. Because when we zoom out, we have some not big support, but some support in the past around this 50 mark. I just don't see the stock going all the way to 40. Anything is possible, guys, right? Like, who would have thought this stock would have went down from 300? But it's just a lot lower likeliness that this stock is going to 40. But it could go to 50. 50 would be a really big psychological spot too. Past resistance, things like the stock stop at, flat or like round numbers. So like a 50 could be a really important psychological level. But a couple of reasons why I like PayPal. I mean, this level is just a steal, guys. If you don't own a position yet, I would consider buying into this one a little bit. Next stock. This is the last of the large cap stocks. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do one more because there's another little hidden one. But Nike stock. Okay. Nike sold off so big because of tariff news. Obviously, Nike is going to be impacted significantly around tariffs. But they saw some relief saying that, let's go to the trade partners real quick. So a few years ago, the U.S. said, we want a lot of retail companies to switch their manufacturing to Vietnam. You see this large imports that have started to happen from Vietnam. Partially that was due to all the retails going into these markets. And so Vietnam said that they will move their tariffs to zero. They're already at small tariffs, but whatever other, marks that the administration, they were calculating on tariffs. And so they said no tariffs. Even if the U.S. comes back at 10% and they match a 10% tariff rate, this is huge for Nike. And that's why we saw some relief on Nike today. Up 3% after going down to 50 earlier in the day, which I bought down at these lows. It reversed a bit down to 57. And so, again, if we see that, why am I forgetting the country's name? Vietnam switches or finds an agreement with the U.S., this could be huge. To my point, my last video I made, watch it, guys, about the decoupling from China. Markets like Japan, I think, are going to become more important for the U.S. Companies like Taiwan will become more important for the U.S., even though there's a whole chip thing going on there. It's a separate conversation. Vietnam, super important. Mexico and Latin America is going to become very important for making goods. And so this agreement is really important and could be putting in a floor because this stock sold off so heavily on the tariff news that if an agreement is made, that 50, what was it low at? I think it was 52. The 52 is probably the floor for this stock. If it does sell off again, we have a lot of support around this 50 range, right? Like $49-ish dollars. We could get a couple more dollars lower. In the worst case, kind of like PayPal, could go to $40. I think that's really unlikely. Last time the stock was at $40 was 2013, which is insane. When we have a bunch of things happening about tariffs happening, what can often happen is the biggest guys survive and the smaller companies have to kind of give up a bit. The reason is because when your margins get hit so much on retail companies, your business may not be able to survive. Either the bigger companies will end up buying you, or you're going to have to go out of business because you don't have enough capital to sustain the margin hit. And so I would say if these tariffs continue at this rate, there's going to be a lot of shoe companies that go out of business that Nike will either buy or they have one less competitor. And so tariffs, in a strange way, are actually good for Nike because they are still the market leader. And that could actually be in favor of them if we see some kind of tariff happen. But we'll have to see. Who knows? But Nike's a stock that I would definitely keep an eye on. The last stock in the large names that we're keeping track of is Stanley Black & Decker. So Stanley Black & Decker broke below a really important mark here, around $70 today. This stock finally sold off after holding a little bit better more recently. The reason why I like this company is because of manufacturing that will be happening in the U.S. We've already saw manufacturer jobs tick up, which means manufacturing is either being planned to happen or is already starting. They're going to pull back regulations to make building happen faster and quicker. And guess what tools you need to build? You need Stanleys. You need Black & Deckers. These guys own a bunch of tools in this space. It's the best of the best. If you get a bunch of government contracts, or if you get these big opportunities to build these large projects with a bunch of capital rolling in, you're going to buy a bunch of new tools. And companies like this are going to benefit substantially from it. And so this is a stock that I haven't bought. It's not financial advice, but this is what I'm starting to look at. We came down to really important support range down here, right? Like if we go back to 1998, insane. If we go back to 1998, we're hitting the top of that. 2002, hitting the top of that range. 2007, hitting the top of that range. So this stock has now pulled back to the peaks of the last financial crisis. If we look at their balance sheet looks pretty decent. The growth is basically flat, but we did see improvements on their net income, so they're making some changes to adapt to kind of the low growth. If we see a surge in manufacturing, this stock is 100% going to feel the love. Negative point, if we look at the monthly chart, we're below the 200-day, multiple rejections. So this stock's on the lookout for me. I'm kind of seeing what's going to happen, what I should keep an eye on. Not necessarily sure that I'm going to buy yet. It could get some more negative pressure. Now that people have rotated out of selling off stock and they start going to more defensive. Obviously, all the tariffs is not great for this company either, right? Like their costs are going to go up, or they're going to have to find other places to manufacture their products, whether it's the U.S. or Mexico, or maybe also go to Vietnam. But that would be the negative. Tariffs are the negative. Could sell the stock off more. The pro is actually that we're going to see a big wave of manufacturing, land opening up, more construction happening, and people need tools, and they're going to buy new tools for all this work. So those are my top turnaround story names. Maybe some are a little bit larger cap, or names that have been around for a while. Look for part 3 of this video where I cover my top lower cap stocks, the companies that I believe are the next generation of companies that you are going to want to own. These are companies I believe will be in the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars valuations. Hundreds of millions of $billion of revenue and the billions of dollars of valuation. And so I will make that stock video next. Follow the channel. Appreciate the support. Love you guys. Ooh, drop the L-bomb again. Till next time, succeed in the market. Let's do it together.